I tell you what, they're terrified.
Wow, that's so good.
They're terrified that we won't cooperate anymore. It's a simple word. No, we're not doing it. We are not having it. A few people cannot control 8 billion. It's ridiculous.
Right.
The way it's done is that the 8 billion, or the great vast majority, obey what the few tell them. They get told what to do and they do it. And if we didn't, when you can see that it's actually about enslaving the population, it's enslaving our kids, it's destroying their future, we simply don't do it.
Over the past few years, it has become increasingly clear, especially to those who seek the truth beyond the daily diet of mainstream media, that powerful, hidden forces are manipulating the world from the shadows. These forces thrive on chaos, confusion, and disorder, which have left our cities in disarray, with rampant looting, widespread drug use, and countless empty offices and businesses. Yet, the mainstream media continues to paint a rosy picture, pushing a false sense of normalcy on those who don't question the official narrative. But the era of blind acceptance is ending. More people are starting to challenge the narrative and speak out against the global elite, who seem intent on dictating our lives. The idea that you will own nothing and be happy doesn't sit well with those of us who cherish our possessions and want to protect our loved ones from these disturbing agendas. We're told that the planet is dying and that we must give up our farms, livelihoods, meat consumption, and even plastic straws, all while those preaching this rhetoric refuse to relinquish their private jets, yachts, and oil fields. If we are all expected to make sacrifices for the planet, shouldn't they lead by example? And let's be clear, we won't be eating bugs, worm burgers, or drinking cockroach milk. It's simply not acceptable. The billions invested in these ventures could have been used to create meaningful change. Every time the global elites discuss their policies, plans, and goals, they reveal their intentions for us all. According to David Icke, the way to resist these insane plans is by saying a firm no and standing united in our resolve. As a community and a society, we must reject the labels they use to divide us and come together to resist those who aim to subjugate us indefinitely. Icke discusses these views in depth during an interview with the Killah podcast, from which we will now share some clips. Before we continue with the rest of the video, do check out daily 5-minute crypto newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part is it's absolutely free. They'll cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
People who say the way to meet or beat the enemy is through fighting the enemy. Mm-hmm. The enemy, if you're looking at this non-human force, it wants you to fight it. It wants to fight. Because if I have this phrase I've been using for decades, what you fight, you become. If you look at history almost in its entirety, you see example after example where someone has come to challenge something and then has become that something. A lot
of movies. Yep.
Yeah, I remember talking to a police officer in London some years ago. Who's he was he's getting on in years, and he used to police. I remember them. They were in the 70s, as I recall. They used to do marches by a far-right neo-fascist organization called the National Front. And then the anti-Nazi League used to march at the same time against the march of the other group. And this police officer said, you know something, he said, if they didn't carry different banners and shout different things, I would never have known which was which. What you become. I tell you what, they're terrified.
Wow, that's so good.
They're terrified that we won't cooperate anymore. It's a simple word. No, we're not doing it. And if enough people say no, it's unenforceable. This is the whole point that people, I think, need to grasp because of what I talked about earlier, where from the earliest age, kids are indoctrinated into obey authority, fear authority. What's going to happen if authority doesn't like what you've done? People can get into this fear mode with regard to authority. But what the hell is authority? If you look at 8 billion people in the world, and you look at the number of people in full knowledge who are driving this agenda, it's absolutely tiny. It's tiny. If you go to the core of this global cult, you'd get them into a single room. And from that, those few people ultimately going out of the human world, but in the human world, ultimately that group are dictating the lives of 8 billion people. Now, purely mathematically, that should be impossible. A few people cannot control 8 billion. It's ridiculous.
Right.
The way it's done is that the 8 billion, or the great vast majority of them, obey what the few tell them. They get told what to do and they do it. And if we didn't, when you can see that it's actually about enslaving the population, it's enslaving our kids, it's destroying their future, we simply don't do it. You know, you've got all these, you know, again, because it's globally coordinated, you see the same things happening everywhere about the same time because it's coming from a central global.
We will not comply with your plans, nor will we participate in our own enslavement. We won't ignore the warning signs just because you insist that everything is fine. Instead, we will ask questions, seek the truth, and push back against anything that feels unnatural. We will take an active role in shaping the future of the world, refusing to leave it in the hands of psychopathic billionaire megalomaniacs who care only about their own gain. No longer will we be complicit in our own domination and subjugation by a few shadowy figures. Everything must be brought into the light, and David Icke believes we can achieve this by firmly standing against their agenda. Now, let's return to the video.
You know, if you take the people who, in full knowledge, who are driving this, you take all the law enforcement and you take those numbers away from 8 billion, you're still looking at a tiny number of people. And this is how it works. And it's all a psychological game. If they can get your psychology, they get your perceptions, they get your behavior. So there's two types of people. This is never more important than today, that have been responsible for every tyranny in history. One group is that which just does what authority tells it without question. Do it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know best, sir. Yes, sir. I know my place, sir. Thank you, sir. And then you've got another group that doesn't want to do it. They maybe have a feeling there's something not right here. I really don't want to do this. But they do it anyway because they're frightened of not doing it. And that leaves the third group, which has ended every tyranny in history, which is the group that says, I can see what you're doing and I'm not cooperating with you. So when you tell me to do something that I can see as an ulterior motive that's bad for me and humanity, I'm not doing it. And, you know, I'll give you a quick example. The British government said outrageously that they should go to jail in totality for the rest of their lives. If only we would realize no is the most powerful word in the English language. If you say it and you mean it, no, not doing it, not having it, then the whole house of cards comes down because we see the so-called, you know, hierarchy of control, but it literally is a house of cards. It's not a solid structure. It's a house of cards. And who's holding the cards together? We are, by our acquiescence to what the few at the top tell us. When we stop doing that, the game's over. And one other thing very quickly, when we stop allowing ourselves to be divided and ruled, when you realize that the true I is consciousness, the body is a vehicle for consciousness to experience this narrow band of frequency called the human world. But we are consciousness. You are a black man. I'm called a white man. We are expressions of the same consciousness. We are just having different experiences for a brief period called a human life. So what they are doing all the time is that they're saying identify who you are by the labels of the human world. Identify the I as I am a man, I am a woman, I am this sexuality, that sexuality, I am this race, that race, this income bracket, that income bracket, and so on. That's how you define yourself. No, all of the things that I've just said are experiences. They're not labels, they're not us, they're experiences that we're having. The true I is consciousness, an eternal state of awareness. And that's what leaves the body at the end of what we call a human life. Now, when you see that, you see judging someone by the color of their skin is childlike nonsense, but also to allow ourselves to be divided on the base of the color of the skin or the basis is also childlike nonsense. But this cult has to get us to see the world like that.
According to Icke, the global cult he's been warning us about is a network of secret societies so intensely compartmentalized that only a select few are aware of the full agenda, control, censorship, and plans to enslave humanity by stripping away our ability to think independently. Icke believes that there's a push for a new global order, one that is deeply dystopian, designed so that the few can dominate and enslave the many. These plans are already in motion. Icke also cautions against the dangers of artificial intelligence, which he sees as the latest tool of control that this secret network will use to subjugate the human race. He warns that the ultimate goal is to put AI in charge of everything we read, watch, see, and learn, giving those who control AI the power to control the world. If these plans come to fruition, the world will descend into a dystopian nightmare, especially for those who dare to question the narrative. This is why we must resist now, before it's too late, by educating others about what's coming and ensuring our communities stand united against these sinister plans. Only with a collective voice can we begin to reject this dystopian new world order. Please share your thoughts on Icke's video in the comments below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.